Queenslanders stuck in airport hell.
Coronavirus hotspot.
Brisbane families are being held hostage in Asia by Qantas.
Qantas just will not talk to us.
Our reporter Ebony Cavallaro trapped for days.
No luggage, no anything.
Now, the fight to get her and everyone else back home to Brisbane. Don't miss it.
Hello, I'm Paul Barry. Welcome to Media Watch. And with the first death in Australia, the federal government rolling out a national emergency plan and the WHO close to declaring a global pandemic, coronavirus panic is at fever pitch, especially in this story about Australians in Asia.
Queenslanders trapped in airport hell. That's what's been happening in an international coronavirus hotspot in Asia. Qantas flights cancelled and nobody telling stranded passengers why.
Airport hell, virus hotspot. And Nine was lucky enough to have a reporter right in the middle of it.
9 News reporter Ebony Cavallaro and husband Jason caught up in a holiday nightmare. Their Qantas flight to Brisbane, delayed, rescheduled, finally cancelled.
And not surprisingly, Ebony Cavallaro and reporter Lane Culcott assumed the dreaded virus was to blame.
With passengers in the dark, in mass and screened, it fanned speculation and fear it was coronavirus-driven.
So where was this coronavirus hotspot and airport hell? In fact, it was Changi in Singapore, regularly judged to be the world's best airport and far from the virus hell of China's Wuhan. And why was the flight delayed? The airline explained to Nine.
A Qantas flight from Singapore to Brisbane was cancelled on Tuesday due to a fault with the captain's seat.
So, nothing to do with the virus, as Nine eventually acknowledged at the very end of its story.
Qantas says it wasn't coronavirus, but mechanical, that parts had to be flown from Sydney.
But that didn't stop Nine from running their scary scoop, despite Qantas telling them several times their promo was way off the mark. And what about held hostage for days? Qantas says passengers were put up in a hotel and flown home the next day. But why let the facts spoil a good story? And here's another with the demise of an old Brisbane favourite.
The latest casualty, a Brisbane Yum-Cha institution. Coronavirus, the last hit for King of Kings.
It could possibly be, yes.
Mark Henderson didn't know and turned up for lunch.
That story of the dying Chinese restaurant was widely reported last week, including in Brisbane's Courier Mail.
Valley Yum-Cha icon King hit after corona.
Famed Fortitude Valley dim sum haunt King of Kings looks to have fallen victim to fears surrounding coronavirus, closing last week after more than 30 years.
And after that headline came memories on the radio.
There's a story in the paper today about King of Kings.
Yes?
After 30 years, closed down. They reckon coronavirus has taken it down.
What? Really?
Because people have stopped going to Chinatown.
There was only one problem, as the restaurant told customers on Facebook.
We are pleased to announce we will be closed for major renovations. We will reopen May 2020.
Whoops, another virus victim that wasn't. Sure, Asian restaurants are taking a hit and the global outbreak is likely to get worse. But journalists should be out there reporting real news about the virus, because there certainly is plenty of it. But now to the men's rights campaigner who's landed herself in a storm of controversy.
Emotional scenes in Brisbane last night as more than 1,000 family, friends and strangers came together to pay tribute and remember Hannah Clarke and her 3 children who were murdered by her estranged husband, Rowan Baxter. It comes as pressure grows for men's rights advocate Bettina Arndt to be stripped of her Order of Australia award for her support of a Queensland police officer who said Baxter may have been driven too far.
So that Brisbane tragedy was a crime that shocked the nation, and the dailies did not hold back in their condemnation.
Evil dad burns kid's wife to death.
You low mongrel.
Pure evil.
Unthinkable.
And next day, the Courier Mail was back with another powerful front-page message.
United in grief, we declare domestic violence to be unacceptable. Always.
There are no excuses.
But there was one voice raised against the chorus of anger. 70-year-old social commentator Bettina Arndt, who had this to say about the killer dad.
Congratulations to the Queensland Police for keeping an open mind and awaiting proper evidence, including the possibility that Rowan Baxter might have been driven too far.
Bettina Arndt has been in the media for more than 40 years and has written for many of Australia's leading papers and magazines as sex therapist, social commentator and, most recently, outspoken men's rights advocate.
I was out there talking about sex at a time when it was really taboo. And in recent years, what we're not allowed to talk about is what's happening to men and boys in our society. We live in an increasingly anti-male society, and it makes me hopping mad.
Until now, some in the media, and Sky News in particular, have been eager to broadcast her controversial views and more than happy to give her a platform.
A third of the victims are male. Why won't Rosie Batty talk about them?
I admire your conviction, I admire your courage, Bettina Arndt.
I gotta say, Bettina, congratulations, and as a man, thank you for your advocacy on my behalf.
And on commercial TV, Arndt has also been invited on to share her contentious views on feminism and rape, virtually unchallenged.
We need to start calling out feminism, which is a really destructive force in our society.
Bettina Arndt, well done.
This is to tell Australia that Bettina is rooting for the men of Australia.
We'll put it on our website.
And even this notorious interview with a convicted paedophile that she did back in 2017 did not stop the media from rolling out the welcome mat.
Here we have an example where evidence of the girl's sexually provocative behaviour was presented to the judge. The question that remains for me is whether there's any room in this conversation for talking to young people, particularly young girls, about behaving sensibly and not exploiting their seductive power to ruin the lives of men.
You might ask why the media have given her so much airtime in the past and challenged her so little. But Arndt's explosive tweet that Rowan Baxter might have been driven too far has finally proved too much for almost everyone, including the Senate, which has voted to strip her of her honour. And it has led to universal condemnation.
She has totally and seriously overstepped the mark, and her Order of Australia should be cancelled.
There is no excuse, male, female, no excuse on this entire earth for torching people and burning them alive.
Yeah, I think there are none.
Bettina Arndt is an absolute disgrace. She should shut up and disappear from public life.
And even those who have handed her a platform, like Andrew Bolt and Chris Kenny, have joined the pylon.
No pushing explains a man murdering 3 young children and his wife.
Bettina Arndt's comments about this are indefensible and beyond the pale.
So what has been Arndt's response? A clarification or an apology? On the contrary, she's been defiant.
Maintain the rage.
Bettina Arndt urges supporters to fight feral mobs.
Arndt may well need her grassroots army because even Spectator Australia, edited by Sky News Outsiders host Rowan Dean, last week opted to cut her loose. Back in January, New Matilda ran an investigation by Nina Fennell which exposed Bettina for letting the media dub her a psychologist when she is not. The Spectator then allowed Bettina to hit back with a full frontal attack on Fennell's integrity. And then it was forced to do an about-turn and go the full grovel, stating,
"At no time did the Spectator Australia intend to portray Ms Fennell as unethical, unprofessional, motivated by animus or dishonest, or her work as lacking credibility and integrity, biased or partial, or motivated by animus or vendetta, and unreservedly apologises for any such imputations."
Fennell is considering suing for defamation. So we asked Bettina Arndt if she would be defending it and how she might fund her defence, but she did not respond. Meanwhile, perhaps the media will challenge her views properly in the future if they use her again. And now to Poll of the Week, which is really bad news for me and our viewers because it proves that we need to be privatised.
Exclusive. 1/3 say ABC is out of touch with ordinary Aussies.
Ouch. So, who says that?
The IPA put out a great poll today that showed about 1/3 of Australians don't agree with the ABC, don't trust the ABC with some of the information that it has. Does that get a run anywhere?
Well, yes, it did. On Sky News, the Daily Telegraph and news.com.au, all owned by News Corp, which told us...
The IPA is renewing calls for the $1.1 billion a year national broadcaster to be privatised.
Yes, indeed. The IPA, which is funded by mining billionaire Gina Rinehart, among others, is a libertarian free market think tank that has been pushing that line for some time. And it told Media Watch that this poll
represents the launch of a new research stream at the IPA, highlighting ABC bias and making the positive case for privatisation of ABC.
So, given the purpose, how fair was the poll? I mean, you can trust the IPA, can't you? Well, respondents were asked, do you agree or disagree with the statement?
The ABC does not represent the views of ordinary Australians.
Now, that is what pollsters call a leading question, or perhaps even push polling. And it's an absolute no-no if you're looking for accuracy. as Professor Murray Goot, one of Australia's leading polling experts, told MediaWatch,
"The question the IPA has chosen to ask isn't balanced. It invites responses that favour the proposition and the IPA's position."
We asked the IPA why they did not ask a neutral question, and their Director of Communications replied,
"I reject the premise of your question, that it is not phrased neutrally."
So what did the poll find? Well, 38%, which was the biggest group, did not know what to answer, while 30% agreed that the ABC does not represent the views of ordinary Australians, and 32%, or slightly more, disagreed. And that, says Professor Goot, is striking because
this is the sort of distribution one would expect if respondents were choosing one option or another, more or less at random. The high proportion neither agreeing nor disagreeing suggests that respondents found it difficult to understand the question.
According to news.com.au, the poll also found a surprisingly high proportion of people aged 18 to 24 in the anti-ABC camp, prompting the IPA's Gideon Rosner to describe young people glowingly as
optimistic, ambitious and patriotic.
And to declare
they are not interested in programming awash with negativity, black armband history and climate hysteria. These results prove there is no future in public ownership of the ABC.
The poll shows nothing of the sort, says Professor Goot. And if the whole exercise proves anything, it is that the IPA is not to be trusted. The ABC, on the other hand, is by far Australia's most trusted media company, according to regular surveys by Roy Morgan Research. And the IPA might like to know that MediaWatch won its time slot last week with record ratings. And as far as we know, most of our 1.1 million viewers, that's you folks, were ordinary Australians. But now to more fake news and a ripper story on 9 about this lookalike fugitive in the USA.
A major manhunt underway in the US, the Ohio Fugitive Task Force hunting a con man who's been taking cash from churches, fooling them into thinking he's Ed Sheeran. Have a look at this. You can be the judge of it.
Yes, that's definitely not British singer Ed Sheeran. But 9 was convinced the story was real and fed it into multiple news bulletins on Thursday.
This man has convinced 3 churches in his town that he is Ed Sheeran, and he even apparently performed The Shape of You. You can hear that right now, not him of course, in front of one of the congregations last weekend.
Perfect brekkie TV fodder. And the Today gang, still working on its chemistry after a summer retooling, lapped it up.
What a story.
I wonder at one point they tweaked. Was it when he opened his mouth and sang?
Well, apparently he had quite a good voice.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know.
Yes, facts were a little hard to come by on this yarn, which did not come from a 9 correspondent or official news wires, but from a single Facebook post by an outfit named Portsmouth, Ohio Official.
Fugitive alert! The Fugitive Task Force is looking for Ronnie Williams Jr. of Ciotaville for fraud.
Looks official enough, although this line might have rung alarm bells.
When the pastor was asked why he believed the real Ed Sheeran would perform for $35 and a sandwich, he said he just assumed he had fell on tough times.
But 9 clearly didn't notice, and as Today entered its 3rd hour of rehashing the tale, it fell to the sluice at the Daily Mail to land a rare scoop.
Awkward! 9's Today Show falls for a satirical fake news story about an Ed Sheeran lookalike robbing churches.
Awkward indeed, especially because the Facebook page actually carries this prominent warning.
Portsmouth, Ohio Official is a news and entertainment satire web publication. This page is for entertainment purposes only.
Just like the Today Show, which caught red-handed simply laughed the whole thing off.
Yes, we did fall for this one. It was from a satirical news site.
Still a good laugh.
It is a good laugh.
Good laugh indeed. And to be fair to Today, they weren't the only morning news taken in by the hoax.
The Fugitive Task Force in Ciotaville, Ohio, is looking for this guy because he convinced 3 churches that he's Ed Sheeran.
Funnier still, that was included in their Morning Morons segment, which is the network's...
It's our daily roundup of the ridiculous stories that actually happened.
Ridiculous, yes. Actually happen? No. So, who are the morons now? That's all from us tonight. There's more on our website, including a full statement from the IPA about its poll, which I would encourage you to read. You can also read responses from domestic violence organisations to Bettina Arndt's claim that 1 in 3 domestic violence victims is male, And don't forget Media Bites on social media every Thursday. But for now, until next week, goodbye.